There we go. Hi everybody, how you doing? I want to welcome you to WP ePortfolios. Today our speakers are going to be Malik Singleton and Erica Reifer. They are both educational technologists from NYU. Looks here like Malik, you train higher education and faculty in the best way to use technology. And Erica is a New York-based designer and educator with an MFA in Design and Technology from Parsons. So I'll turn it over to you guys. Enjoy.
Thanks.
Thanks, thank you. And thank you all for coming for the last session of today. We did start happy hour early.
You guys are troopers.
Yeah. So just some brief words about us. So we wear multiple hats. We both teach in the higher ed world. And we work with faculty in designing courses, and we also run enterprise services at NYU. So we wear multiple hats. And some brief words about the work that we do at NYU. So we work with faculty to enhance their teaching and learning. That's our primary audience. We do not build websites for departments.
It's probably organized differently at every school, but for us, we're part of IT. And it's maybe organized a little differently everywhere you go, but for the work we do, actually still fall under the umbrella of IT.
And our team is always thinking about scalability and continual service improvement, meaning that we look at the landscape that currently exists and we're thinking about technology and how that changes and how that impacts teaching and learning in higher education, and we try to implement and grow on a regular basis. And so we recognized, with regard to ePortfolios, we recognized that there was a gap, and we listened to the faculty and our clients, and we realized that we could fill some of those gaps with existing services and not reinvent the wheel. And one of those services is our web publishing university-wide service that is powered by WordPress.
What she's mentioning about the need is that, every school has a need for ePortfolios. And so it's just so many different ways to approach that. And so we started figuring out how to use WordPress for it. And so, just like there's a need at every school, everywhere you go, they probably have a different way of defining what in the world an ePortfolio is, learning portfolio, they even call them different things. And everybody here who's ever tried to do anything with this has probably some good stories, some horror stories, but we realize at the end of the day, they really come down to sometimes people mean, hey, I want something that has to do with presentation. Other times people mean, hey, I want something that has to do with evaluation. There's two, and they're sort of like two different animals, right? Giving a good nod over here. Some people are all about, I want a showcase, I want to show, all the work that students have done and so someone else can see it. Others are about, this is about evaluation and assessment and even over to the point of accreditation, that word comes up. And so we had to sort of figure out what it was we wanted to tackle and what it was the platform was going to allow us to tackle. So this is one thing that we realized we needed was to be able to have something that was going to play to the strengths of WordPress.
So we focused on program and department assessment, student evaluation, showcasing work and achievements. We have not touched upon accreditation.
Right.
So just to help frame this a little bit, we're not talking about accreditation. Not that this couldn't be implemented in the future, but that's just not our focus right now. So previously, before we got involved in this, one of the school's global liberal studies used Google Drive to sort of try and figure out how they could meet their needs, right? So they wanted to showcase some student work, but also track students in their progress, as well as implement reflections and assessment and evaluation. And so they used Google Scripts, they created their own some Google Scripts, and so they would push folders and documents through Google Drive, through our Google Apps for Education, so through Google Drive to sort of prompt students and create a framework for them to just store their information, but really didn't focus on the presentation aspect. And so that was a sort of a gap that they were missing with this implementation.
And then there was, over the years, I guess NYU has implemented different services for learning portfolios. And one of the more recent ones that they've been, trying to sell everyone on is Testtree. I don't know if anyone's heard of Testtree. Yeah? Heard of it, come across it. Its strength was not visual. It has a lot of strengths, but it had all the information was in there. Everything that they were like, we can put this and that, all the things that your students are going to need to show, but boy, it was not visual. And so it was just it just limited people in that way, and we just figured there kind of still had to be something better. And also, I think one thing about it is that it, when you're dealing with so many platforms, it sort of requires people to duplicate their content in multiple places. And this is not even part of our school's LMS. So they might have to take work. Oh, I had this over in the LMS. Let me go put it in Testtree. And then I'm also, we run our WordPress as sort of these optional. It's not the LMS. The main thing. It's not our .edu, but it's an optional environment. So we wanted to kind of scale down how many places they had to do things.
And this other use case was they use Google Sites. I don't know if anyone here is familiar with Google Sites. It's hard to make things look really good. Right? It has a lot of the good Google features. It has granular permissions. You can embed a YouTube really easily, but it's just hard to make look really nice. And so you can see here, there's an example of a program, a NYU Wagner program that, they wanted students, they're capturing their entire time in this program and, embedding PDFs and whatever, but really it's just not showcasing student work. It's capturing it in one way, but not showcasing it. And so that was sort of a major gap. But this was the only tool that they felt at the time met the majority of their needs. So they went with Google Sites. So our solution.
Well, again, we talked a little bit about being able to scale. On one hand, you want to, simplify, but at the same time, NYU is a pretty big university. At universities across the country, you have this school of that and this school of that. One other thing about NYU, though, is that our schools of this and that are sometimes elsewhere around the globe. We have places, I think about 14 different global locations, Shanghai, Abu Dhabi, Italy. So there's, we have to make sure that we're always thinking about scale. And scale is also something that then plays into ownership. Tag teaming here.
Great. So ownership is really important for us, right? When we work with faculty, often the question comes up, who owns this content, right? I'm putting it somewhere, who owns it? And for our group, this isn't necessarily true about every group at NYU, but for our group, faculty own their content. That is, our mantra is to empower faculty in, presenting their content the best way they can and with the right technology that for them, but they own it. And so it's something that we think about often when we launch services or launch services within services, is that they own the content. And so that's a really important aspect that we need to build into anything that we do.
The other important factor is support. And we have support in a lot of different ways at the school, but one thing about this that we realize is that we wanted to make sure that as we're creating a support model, we're not having to teach too many people about something new. We're already running WordPress. And so to build an ePortfolio model on top of it meant that we can get people to work with something that was already familiar for our customer service, our knowledge base, our the groups that work directly with their individual departments. So that was key. That the tax stream example I showed you is something that we knew was going to be a little different. We'd have to start support from brand new and teach people something brand new. So WordPress helped. The fact that we were already running WordPress and building this with that and support was going to be a little easier to do.
And similar to that, in terms of support, is really leveraging resources that you already have. Right? I mean, we all have a lot on our plate, but really leveraging tools that you already have. Right? Why reinvent the wheel? Why bring in a new tool when you have tools that may actually meet your client's needs? And so we already had WordPress. Right, so, and we love working with WordPress. But we already had it, and we really felt that listening to our clients and hearing what their needs were, that this would meet the majority of them without implementing a new technology at the university. So just a little bit about our WordPress environment, just because we're a large institution. We run, so enterprise, all faculty, staff, and students at NYU can create as many sites as they want in our WordPress environment. It's not administrative. It's on our main CMS, so we don't run department sites. It's really for teaching and learning and research.
Which is interesting because I sat in the Illinois-Chicago presentation, and it was a little bit the opposite, which is kind of interesting. They were saying we run it as kind of a standard service for the departments and the programs, but the teaching and learning can, because theirs looks much more simplified, and then teaching and learning, they can kind of create something outside of that. So for us, this is for teaching and learning.
Let's get to some of the meat, something you guys want to see. So this is one of our schools, Gallatin. Gallatin's a really interesting school in that they don't really have majors in your typical fashion. Students create their own major in this school. So what one student's doing, another student is doing something very different. And so they're trying to showcase what students are doing because some of them are so unique and so different. So this is a new initiative for them, and so we worked with them to implement their template. And they're sort of piloting this. And one thing that they put in their template for their ePortfolio is they want to build a scaffold for yourself to complete your degree, but you also get these sleek professional portfolio and learning skills of WordPress, which powers 25% of the width, right? So they're selling it as like a skill that you can use outside the university, whereas if they built this in Testtree or in the LMS that we have, you can't really say that in the same way.
Yeah.
And so that's something that they're using as a plug to say that this is a takeaway rather than just showcasing your work and finishing your degree. And so one thing that they do also is they're pulling in all these different portfolios, so they're showcasing them, which is kind of cool. Again, this is a pilot for them, so they're still figuring it out.
And it kind of goes back into a little bit about ownership and control, because we didn't even do this for them. We didn't do this for them. They have instructional technologists who are savvy, and they took what we provided, and made it look cooler than even what we started with.
And we're going to talk a little bit about how we implemented it afterwards, not just what people are doing with it.
The one that we showed you earlier that was using Google Drive, our Global Liberal Studies. This is an example of one of the ones that they created. And this is, it works in such a way where, the instructional maybe it's instructional technologist, maybe it's a faculty member, but they set up what it is that the student is supposed to input and follow that model. I think one thing that's interesting is that they're using a way of aggregating categories in order to make it work.
So similar to this, where they're showcasing the student portfolios, this group is aggregating every student site based on certain categories. So they want to see what students' reflections are. So all student reflections that are categorized correctly are getting pulled into a hub, which is really cool. So they can sort of see from an administrative, like a learning, teaching and learning perspective and an administrative perspective, they can see what students are doing, maybe where gaps are between courses to try to fill those gaps.
And they came up with that. That's based on their own knowledge of WordPress and what WordPress allows them to do. It's not what we told them to do. We just gave them WordPress and they got creative.
So Steinhardt, this is a specific program within Steinhardt, our School of Education. And so they had, they needed to create a framework for their students to hit. They had so many different requirements for this program, and they wanted a framework for students to be able to easily see all the different requirements, but also input content as they learn and as they go through the program. And so prior to doing this, we actually don't have the previous screenshot, but prior to doing this, they basically did a workshop with students to say, here's how you build your portfolio site for this program. And so they would just do a workshop every new class, which is very resource and time intensive. So so they were really excited when we talked to them about this project.
This is a group that would, I think it's sort of clear that you're going to have some groups that, like the Gallatin ones we showed, once you give them WordPress and they're skilled with it, they're going to take it and run with it a million miles. Doesn't have to be that way for every group. They're just kind of happy to have a solution. Some of them are going to be a little more simple still, but they're going to use it to suit their purposes. This group,
So they're using this to really document student field work. So it's a very specific need, and very unique to their program. So this is a use that sort of wasn't our intention, right? When we think about ePortfolios, this wasn't on the top of our list. And so they sort of came to us and said, would this work? And we said, yeah. And so why not, right? Or like, let's try it out and see if it works. And so this is now, I don't know if we define this as an ePortfolio, or it's really just a template for them to use, but they've created it, and we've integrated it into our system. But it really speaks, I think, and the real reason why we put this up here is it speaks to the sort of the versatility of our solution, in that there's a really large range of needs, and we really have to be flexible in how we deploy a solution for them. And this is I think the last use case we have. So this was the one who was using Google Sites. So there's a lot of overlap. They really just wanted to sort of recreate the site, but a little bit more visual, and a little bit easier to maintain.
and it might be operated differently at each school, but in our department, we're pretty hands-off. We want them to just go and do it themselves. In some schools, maybe it's pretty hands-on, and you have a department that's helping people build their sites. It's really not. Going back to scale, we don't have the ability to support hand-holding for everybody, so who knows what we're going to get when we see the sites that they come up with. Like I said, we just give them WordPress and then let them run.
Yeah, and to speak to that, we have over 7,000 faculty in all of our global locations. So we just can't, right? Like, there's just no way that we could build sites for everyone. It doesn't work like that. So, yeah. So how did we do this?
This is where we finally get to see, what it is that we did at NYU.
So we've integrated. So we have our web publishing service. As part of that service, we have a dynamic site creation process.
A lot of custom things going on at different schools, and so here at NYU.
So here's just a brief overview. So you log in, you're a user, you're a current faculty, staff, or student, you log in, you want to create a site on our web publishing platform powered by WordPress, you go create, and you get this screen. We're trying to gather metrics and really trying to see who's using our service and how. And so we've come up with these 3 categories. Are you using it for an administrative use, or like intranet? Are you using it for a course, or for research, or is it personal? It's more sort of like your own showcase rather than a portfolio. You choose your URL after our designated service URL. So you can get creative, or you can put your name, you can put whatever you want. Your course name, and then you choose your privacy settings. Everything here you can change with the exception of your URL.
Yeah, it's a way for people to understand that even though we don't do a lot of handholding, we know it's going to be a little, for some people who are brand new to WordPress, we don't want to overwhelm them with some sort of interface that, was too crazy just yet. So this was a brilliant way for us to just give them a simple interface that was going to feed into all the fields that needed to be filled.
I mean, this speaks to scale a lot, but it also speaks to, we learned a lot from a preview. We had a really outdated blog service that had your net ID as your default URL for like the one site you get to create, and most people wanted to change that. And so they ended up like changing it for people and keeping a spreadsheet of who they changed it for, and it was a mess. That doesn't scale either. And so that was a good takeaway from a previous service. And so then you can choose whether you want to start off with a template or you build your own.
And so people are able to see the different examples, and what you're looking at here is not just what you see when you go into WordPress and you see the various themes available. What we're seeing here are the different portfolios available. So if I'm from Gallatin, I'm really not going to choose the Wagner theme, right? You could, just like any theme. Functionally, it works like that, but this is kind of this layer that lets people know, okay, you're not just choosing a theme, you're choosing a portfolio. So if you want a good grade in your class or something, you're going to choose the right one, right? So I'm going to go over here and choose the one that says what my program director told me I ought to be choosing.
Also key, yeah.
So from a technical, back end of WordPress side, the difference between what you're calling a template and say just a theme is there's more, I'm taking it, than just, you have this theme,
right?
A WordPress theme. What else is in the template?
Great question.
It's a good question.
Does it bring a package of plugins?
Especially since in WordPress, the word template is used, right? With more.
Right, yeah, I'm assuming it's not
that's
that.
Yeah, we're talking about what it is that a program or faculty member is going to say, I want your portfolio to contain A, B, C, and D. That's what we consider that group's template.
Okay.
And
so how do you actually implement that?
Okay.
On the WordPress?
Just for the recording purposes, the question was, these templates are different than themes. How so? Does that capture that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I have it on my to-do list for next week.
The other thing that's really important here is that we did not create these.
Yeah.
These are created by faculty, department administrators, anyone who's close to that particular use case. And they retain ownership. They have access, or they actually administer the master site. So this system is literally copying a site and creating a new version of it. You can select what settings, you select a new URL, but they're maintaining this site. It's actually really funny. I got an email just yesterday saying from an instructional tech at one of our schools saying, we updated our portfolio site. Can you update the screenshot, like the image, because the image is outdated? I had no idea they had updated it.
They're able to preset things like the categories, maybe.
Yeah.
They're able to preset even what plugins will be associated with that template. It's what we're calling a template. Their model of what they want their students, or we call a portfolio. They're able to preset a few things, and so that way when the students go in to put their work in, they already see what kinds of things they're supposed to have implemented.
So we're defining templates as sort of a package. It's a theme that's already in our web publishing, our WordPress service, plugins that are already in our web publishing service, and their content. Whatever content they want to use as a prompt or as a placeholder. So it's sort of like a package in that way. And that's what these are.
Yeah.
So would it be like you've created a basic, mostly empty but laid out entire site, and then when they select template, you're basically cloning that thing for them?
And the they is important because there's only but so much that we do.
They are.
And then the program directors and instructional techs, they do a little bit more, and then the students, have more to do after that. And so there's a few different things.
Our team might develop a couple of templates to say that speak to a larger, broader audience, right? So maybe best practices on maybe teaching online using WordPress. And that might be a framework for someone to, like a starting point for faculty to then customize their site. But for just specific department use cases and portfolio use cases, it's really important that the people who are closest to the use case are a part of this process and own this process. And that is really important for us in terms of scalability. We won't be able to scale if we're constantly getting bombarded of like, this needs to be changed. And these are minor changes, right? Like we're putting the onus on them at this point to do that. And then there you're done, right?
That's
So it's like a 4-step process. Someone can just get started and go. So to okay, nice guy over there to ask a question. Our tech guru lead developer in our team is doing a lightning talk tomorrow to talk about the site setup wizard, which is what we call the process that we just went through to create a site. His plugin is on WPWordPress.org.
Wave your hand, Neil.
Yeah, Neil.
Wave your hand. So his talk is tomorrow. He's gonna, with all the good questions, he'll explain more of what, how we did this at NYU.
So some of the features that we have available that sort of really help and enhance this solution is accessibility. That's really important endeavor for us right now. And so, but it's really on who's ever developing the master template to sort of leverage this, but it's something that we're trying to push more and more. Blog templates, WPMU's plugin is key to making this all happen. Neil's site setup wizard plugin, and one thing that we're constantly trying to do, again, as I mentioned earlier, is gather metrics on who are our users and how are they using our service. And another member of our team, Harshit, developed a WP Network Stats plugin that is really useful in gathering some of that information.
So these plugins that are associated with this process it was only just recently they went ahead and put them out on .org.
Yeah.
So they can be found. At NYU, there's a few other things that we run. A couple of the services, and they integrate well. They play well with WordPress. So Google Apps for Ed is one, and there's a video streaming service that we have. It's Kaltura based. Yeah, video. It's our in-house YouTube. It's not YouTube. It's not Google, but it's Kaltura. But it's just sort of a place where faculty are able to put up instruction videos, and all the different groups in school are able to use it. Yes, sure. Sure, go ahead.
You guys are hitting all the
Okay, good.
Feedback. Do you have the ability for folks to embed the Kaltura from your NYU stream in there?
Yeah.
Because when I'm about to work on that, we've got Kaltura
Pretty well
too.
integrated.
But I was looking, and the plugin that was widely available doesn't look like it's.
Now, you know what? Kaltura, their group, is based in New York. They're not far from, so we've been able to
We just go to their offices.
Yeah, we go, they're just a few blocks.
I just kind of rough them up.
Yeah, we go over there, we get coffee, we do stuff. Like, that's just one of those, it's a benefit. Kaltura is based in New York, and they're just about 10 blocks from us.
So, full disclosure, the integration that we have with NYU Stream is not as clean as it may look to our users. Kaltura actually knows this and is working on developing their plugin for multi-site use, because right now that's the problem. It's not multi-site compatible.
Yeah.
So they're working on it. I'm hoping sometime this fall.
And they're kind of a young
Tell them
company.
there's another user that really does.
Yeah.
There's a
They're
customer of theirs.
they're a young enough company to where the work that they've done with our group taught them a lot, and they realized, oh, I'm seeing what the actual use cases are, and they've built a lot of things because of our own chats with them.
So yeah, hopefully soon. They're aware. I mean, this is something that we've been pushing them for a really long time, and I think they're finally getting it. So yeah, right now users can embed videos through our streaming service.
And single sign-on's the
Yeah, so we have integrated with single sign-on, and that's key just to the user experience. It's really important for us to integrate. I mean, obviously there's a lot more features that we can talk about and sister services, but these are sort of the highlights. Another thing that we do sometimes, not all the time, is promote and market what we offer. And so we were working with 3 or 4 different schools in launching this solution. But it's really about getting the word out, because the solution, I think, is so versatile that it really speaks to course creation, different types of portfolios, and for both students and programs. And so this was just one of our slides that we created for an expo we did, I don't know, in
Yeah, I
May.
mean, it's the kind of thing that kind of works as a flyer. Like, you want to see this around campus, post this kind of thing up in break rooms and things like that, so that people start to get curious and they say, well, hey, what's that, and how can I start to use it?
And you'll notice here, well, Malik just mentioned this earlier, there's no mention of WordPress on this slide. We promote WordPress as web publishing to everybody, because we've run into the case, and hopefully not here, where the technology actually changes, but the services stay the same. So we try not to brand based on the technology that we use, but really the service that it offers. Yeah.
We had a whole thing about this, but conveniently, what I did, WP.
Yeah,
It definitely makes it easier.
Because I was actually saying, I think we should do a subdomain at WP, and I don't have to say why. I wish I'd thought.
It worked out really well.
Yeah, it does work. Although when we were launching the service and we were thinking about naming it, web publishing just didn't roll off the tongue.
Totally.
Some of the other,
WP looks great.
but WP looks great, and so we just call it WP. Really. And so moving forward and really thinking about growth, like there are so many things we want to do with this and with the service. So getting feedback from our users, right? So we work really closely with these 4 groups and departments, but there are so many of our users out there who we don't get to speak to as closely, and so we're really looking to get more feedback from them to see how we can improve it and how we can better meet their needs. But really, we're really excited because we've had a great response rate of web publishing in general, and this just leveraged all of those elements and packages them to specific needs. So we're really excited about that. Again, metrics is something that we're pushing on right now. That's a huge project for us to really see who's using our service, how they're using it, and really tell our story to everyone else. Higher ups at MAU, the broader community. And so some of the things that we're looking to implement to create a better user experience is, right now we don't have student information getting pulled into web publishing. And so if a faculty creates a site for his course, he has to enroll all of the students. We have bulk enroll, but it's not the same. So we're hoping to launch that this fall, sometime this fall. That's a priority for us, really, to create a better user experience. Yeah.
What kind of student information?
Student information system, so rosters, like course rosters.
So
Is that not a FERPA issue?
What do you mean?
FERPA?
Yeah, no, I'm aware,
There's
but-
no personal identifiable information about their academic career?
we'd only pull certain info in.
Okay.
Really, just net ID. Every user in our web publishing, in our WordPress environment, is just
Right.
we're just pulling in net ID to create a user
Right,
account.
yeah, we're not
That's
putting in
basically all you
any
need.
other information.
Yeah.
It's just so that they're registered for the site, not manually. Automatically.
Yeah, I
Right.
get it, but
So pulling in the registry, just certain, not the full profile. We wouldn't populate the
no,
profile.
I've been challenged that having a student create a website is a FERPA violation.
Having a student create their own
Yes.
site is
For a
FERPA.
class as a requirement. Wow.
We're not challenging you
I
on
don't
that.
know how you got there.
And again, that's not
Yes,
even from what our department does. That's up to the faculty member if they require that.
Right. Right.
But we're just, we provide the platform.
Yep.
That's it.
So integrating student information system, integrating some of our sister services just more seamlessly. So the Kaltura one, right now, from a user's perspective, it's okay. It could be so much better. And so, that's something what we think about when we talk about continual service improvement. It's like, what's our feedback from our users, and how can we improve the services that we're offering?
I was gonna say when we launched this, it's very much a soft launch. It's not even something that, we just got the word out a little bit in our consultations. We didn't have an idea until recently of how many of these have been created.
Just last night.
Until just last night.
We found out that just through the templates feature, right? So there's the build your own, right? You can build your own site. Just through the templates feature, there's almost 500 sites getting created, that's been created, and this is just a semester and a half use. And I know a big use case is coming in the fall, right? They've already created their template, they just need their students. They just need their students to start the semester. So this is just growing rapidly. And I think, one thing we want to work with more departments to get more use cases to see how we can better serve their needs. And thank you.
All right. Again, I was supposed to say the main takeaway, I guess, was just that we were saying we leveraged what we already had. We had a WordPress environment, and so to build ePortfolios, why reinvent the wheel? Yeah, let's. Sure. Well, I think you raised yours first.
What happens to the content when faculty leave or when students graduate?
Oh, wonderful question.
What happens to the content after
That was my
It belongs to them.
We actually just did a major cleanup project. I know deprovisioning and cleanup is not often talked about, at least in our institution. So we are working on a process, I think we're sort of formalizing it right now, to say sites that haven't been used in over a year.
Not updated.
Not updated.
This is even outside of ePortfolios.
Yeah, this is the entire web publishing service.
service.
Sites that haven't been used that are outdated, you'll get notified. You'll have to take action. If you don't take action, they're going to get archived and then eventually removed.
All the action has to be is just update, just put a simple post, hello, or just something up on your site.
So we did this cleanup project a little bit more manually. We're going to work with a vendor hopefully in the fall to develop a plugin to do that. So hopefully maybe we'll contribute back to
So just to speak to that, this comes in a few different ways. One, sites that haven't been updated in a while. Number two, alumni. We have to figure out, now that you've graduated, what happens to your site? Similar, I gave an example to somebody who was like, well, if you're an alumni, you can no longer live in the dorm, right? So it's similar to that. We can't just host everything. And so that's another example. Those are the two biggest things we ran into. Sure, I'll go right here. Right.
It's part of this question that we're talking about now. Do you help students with moving their portfolios onto another platform after they graduate if they want to take that work with them?
Well, that goes into our support model.
Mm-hmm.
We can't handhold everyone, but we have lots of documentation up here. It's WordPress, so it's called import-export. Let's have people learn how.
we're export-ish. Right?
They've got to. We like giving them content that they own, but it's at the same time you're responsible for your content. If you've created great content in our system and you really care about it, then you're responsible for taking action. We send out plenty of notifications. Don't worry. We alert them, and we have all sorts of ways of communicating. And with our archiving, even been a little, we're all in higher ed here, we can talk about it. So, on campus there are certain bigwigs and kind of VIPs, and if certain people complain, you need to have a backup plan, right? Some provost or something like that. And so, yeah, for most of the people we say, oh, you're supposed to take action, but we have a little bit of
Yeah, you need to, cover your butt.
and since if anybody at our school is listening, they're gonna go, but y'all, you said you have a way. So sorry.
Sorry guys, I just gave up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious about governance. Like, what do you do if people throw the NYU logo up there and then sell supplements and stuff on the site? Like, how do you deal with that?
So we don't have any e-commerce plugins.
Okay.
It's not really a teaching and learning need, and so we don't offer them.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And then governance, it's really, as part of our terms of use, you will not represent or misrepresent really the university or yourself in any way. And if we don't monitor closely, but if someone notifies us, we'll take that site down. And every time a site is created, they have to check off that they agree to the terms of use.
Do you put anything in like the footer of the site saying if there's any problems with this content, contact whoever?
We don't. We've thought about it. We haven't yet. We could eventually. If we haven't actually run into any issues.
Well, yeah,
It's real wood.
Are you considering going to automated ePortfolio for all students?
That's at a much higher level. This is not officially the NYU ePortfolio service.
Right. It's a good distinction. This is an ePortfolio option.
Right.
Just for those who have contacted us about the other ePortfolio options and said, like those examples that we showed, and then said we still want something a little different, and then we say, well, there's this.
So there's no talk yet about that. This is, I think, too new to even go there.
So I'm sorry I came in late, very sorry I came in late. Can't even get like Pokemon an excuse for it. So maybe you defined it before, you said kind of the other ePortfolio thing. We have a QEP, I don't know if you're familiar with QEP, going around right now. Our ePortfolios are being delivered through our learning management system. And alumni have access to them, from what I heard, for up to 2 years afterwards. But again, it's a closed garden.
Right.
So I don't know, I haven't really seen the whole implementation. That's one of the reasons I push a solution like yours, is let the student own it. Right, like from the get-go, and not have it proprietary in any way. So how do you differentiate? You said yours is an option that they can go after? How do you?
Right, so NYU has an official LMS, right, that they push. A lot of faculty use web publishing for their courses and don't use that on LMS because it's not meeting their needs for whatever reason. So NYU currently has another ePortfolio solution. Like, it was soft launched, so a lot of people don't know about it. That's meeting certain needs. It's not meeting all of them. This sort of came out of a lot of conversation with various users or clients that we work with, saying, this would be really good to do this. This would be really good to do this. Can we do this? And we're like, why not? We'll try it, right? Because using templates and WordPress meets so many other needs as well that why not try and do this for ePortfolios? But again, this isn't the official ePortfolio tool. We're not working with every department. We don't have every department creating their sites in our web publishing service.
And there's no real silver bullet application that does everything all over the, so it's not even, so we need our LMS and we need our other solutions at school because there's people that have uses for those. It's just that this did a particular thing. You had a question.
Everybody already said all the things I was thinking about. I have other less significant details to add on.
Okay.
I think you guys run it. I saw the 5 go up. So.
All right, right here.
You said your service was new. How long have you been providing the service?
Web publishing since August 2014, and then for ePortfolios.
Yeah, we launched this template soft launch in October. I think we finally got all the pieces aligned that users could actually start using it. Yeah.
Just past October?
Yeah.
Okay, we're probably at the 15-second mark, but you have.
Yeah, I'm curious about like level of customization. Can people put their own HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in? Can they do their own
Good
themes
question.
and plugins?
Good question.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Security is very important. We tell people who want to do all the high-tech custom stuff, you sound like you're pretty advanced. How about actually? We recently brought Reclaim on our. He's got a big Reclaim T-shirt for folks who.
Domains project?
What's that?
Domains of one own?
No.
Yeah, I know that
It's piloting right now. So
Okay,
it's not
real
our
hard.
team though.
But basically, if anybody wants to go all out, go for it. Go
Right.
get your own. But in our web publishing environment, we have to lock security down. We're going to do it without JavaScript.
So we do have Jetpack, so users can add their own CSS. JavaScript is a no-no,
CSS,
too much of a security risk.
It's like Google Analytics, and they do that on.
Yeah, Google Analytics, we
Yeah.
have a plugin. So really, it's just using the web publishing service that we already offer and building from there.
Cool.
Yeah.
But users cannot upload their own plugins or themes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank everyone.
you.
Thank you.